the renowned voice actress, introducing Courtney Taylor.
Not last. How long have you people been up for? My God.
We were here since 9.
Right.
Yeah. So
Is this
please.
too close?
Oh no,
Too
this
full?
is
Okay,
awesome.
good.
I
All
love
right, good.
closeness. Thank you. Awesome.
Go ahead.
Also, for these fine people, can you please, for those of them that don't know, can you please tell them who you are, what you do, what you're about?
Okay, well, how much time do you have? I'm Courtney Taylor. I'm a voice actor from Los Angeles now. I grew up in San Francisco. I do voices for video games, commercials, and animation. And I've been doing it for a long time now, I think, at this point. And I don't know. I like cake over pie.
I like cake over pie. Awesome. How'd you get into the business?
Well, it was 100 years ago, so don't try this at home. But I actually went to theater school, and I was applying for a master's program in New York, and I auditioned for a grumpy gentleman who said I had a terrible voice and that I would never be able to play Juliet, which I was like, I don't know if that was ever on the table, but okay. And at the time, I was managing a boxing gym, and I was teaching a lot of like fitness classes, and so I did have some vocal cord nodes, whatever. I didn't sound that much different than I do now, and so he said, you have to go to the doctor. I will never accept your application with your voice.
Oh,
you won't be
geez.
able to project, and I was like, so I left in tears, and I went back to one of my teachers, and she said, I think you have a cool voice, you should try voiceover. And I didn't even know what that was. And so I took a voiceover class, and it was commercials. They didn't have, video games weren't really, this was like in 98, I think. So old. So they didn't have like, I didn't even think about animation or video games. I think at that point it was like Pong or whatever. So, not that bad, but, and so I went in and I just loved it. Like I got behind the mic and I was like, oh, this is super fun. And I always read aloud. I talk all the time, and I used to, like when your siblings are mean to you and the things that they're like devastating, you look back and you're like, really, that was the thing that hurt my feelings? And so my sister, who's actually here with me at the convention today, she would call me commercial lady because I sang all the jingles and I would mouth all the words and everything. And she was like, commercial lady, please just shut up. And I'm like, don't call me commercial lady, that's so mean. And now I'm commercial lady, and I'm totally cool with it. I've voiced commercials for Ghirardelli Chocolate, Motrin, Toyota, all kinds of stuff. So it really actually came in handy. And I think probably the yelling at people at the boxing gym really helped too. Once I got into video games, I was like, oh, I know this too. I can yell at people and I can take a punch. So
That's awesome.
it all coalesce. So all the weird things that happen to you in your life are all just waiting to come together, and then you'll be like, oh,
Awesome.
how's
No,
that?
that was awesome. Questions?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Megan from the University of Connecticut. What was your favorite role for like video games? Was it Jack from Mass Effect or the lone
Soul
Soul
Survivor.
Survivor in Fallout?
This is a hard, I think people don't like this answer, but there's a reason for this answer. There are characters that I felt were easier to play, that were closer to me, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they were my favorite because I love a challenge. So, while Jack from Mass Effect is frighteningly close to who I am at times, Ada Wong was a big challenge for me because she's not anything like me, and the technical part of doing I voiced Ada Wong in Resident Evil 6 and Operation Raccoon City and Damnation, and in Resident Evil 6 we had to do facial capture to video of the people that had already done the motion capture. So obviously when you watch a screen it's in reverse, and so picking up the lines off the page, watching someone who speaks much faster than I do, and trying to inhabit a really sexy character who's supposed to speak slowly, and having to kind of shove that into that person's read, because the motion capture person's not like, oh, I'm going to do it like Ada. She's like, I'm doing my work right now and I'm going to say the line, and she's acting, but she's doing her version. So to do what she was doing in reverse, like she would come through a door and look left and then right and say the line, and I would have to look at what she was doing, come through the door and look right and then left and say the line, or raise my opposite hand. And it was just this. So there was a few trips to the bathroom where I was like, guys, I'm just gonna take a break for a second, and then be like, oh my God, what is this? So it was a really great challenge. It was a major tool for my skill set. But as far as like picking up I played damsel in Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, and people like her and Jack, I feel like those characters are much easier for me to just be like, oh, she's bonkers? Great, let's do this. So it really just depends on, there's always something interesting and different in each character that I can kind of hang my hat on, even if it's like military barks, where you're just like, let me just see if I can scream for 4 hours.
Questions? Oh, right there.
Hi, I'm Nia from _on Instagram.
You're really cute.
Thank you. What have you learned from voice acting that you wouldn't have learned, like, not going into that career?
Great question. I think it kind of comes back to what I felt, being a kid is hard. You always feel like you're weird. It doesn't matter who you are. Even if you're one of like the cool kids, you're still making up for the fact that you don't feel like you're good enough or whatever inside. And I had a hard time in school feeling like I was always over emotional. I couldn't keep a lid on what I was feeling. I had a hard time controlling my emotions. And it made me so, people would be like, oh, she's such a trip. She's so weird. She's a trippy chick. And it would hurt my feelings. And I think now I realize that all of those things that made me feel so much like an outcast or so much like I was trying to hide who I really was, have stood me in such good stead in what I do for a living now, that like I definitely realized that the things that made you weird or different when you were a kid are the things that make you special and really feed who you are if you follow your true north. And I don't know if I was like a printer salesman, if I would know that, but I'm 100% certain of that you have to, all of those things will just be huge gifts later on. They're gifts anyway, but you just don't know it yet.
That's awesome. Great motivations.
Hi, man. I'm also from the University of Connecticut. Do you have any funny memories you remember in like the booth recording, any bloopers that like you would think back and like, oh my gosh, why did I do that?
Oh, every session. I mean, there are engineers all over Los Angeles that could absolutely bury me. And sometimes they do. There's some stuff out there that I think the most popular blooper that's out there is the Taco Bell. I'm going to swear. So I went to, I really eat quite well, and I don't eat meat and stuff, but sometimes in between sessions, we do a 4-hour session, and then we have usually an hour to get to our next job. And in LA, that can be tricky. So I was going to a Fallout recording, and I swung by the Taco Bell drive-through and got like a bean and cheese burrito, which is not what you want to eat before a session. And girls don't, but it is heavy. And so I was in the booth and I was trying to like pump myself up for what, I don't even remember what we were doing, but I was like shadow boxing and dancing around, and I was like, yeah, I'm a badass motherfucker, powered by Taco Bell. And the engineer recorded that, and somehow it ended up on YouTube or the internet somehow. And so now, apparently, I'm like the spokesperson for Taco Bell, which is horrifying because I'm from San Francisco and we have amazing Mexican food. And I live in LA, and LA has amazing tacos. And I'm like, no, I am not advocating that Taco Bell is good tacos. But now I am the recipient of amazing taco memes, and everybody like hits me up on Twitter like Taco Tuesday, and I'm like, yeah, let's do this. Everyone's like Taco Bell. I'm like, no. Use Yelp, find really good tacos in your neighborhood. And I've also just, I was pissed at somebody the other day. There's something out there I was being some crazy woman from Florida talking about feeding somebody to the gators. And that's out there soon. That will be out. So, feed them to the gators, baby! It is, yeah. They're never me trying my Disney princess voice. It's always me being psychotic. So.
Questions?
Charles from Inspire the Muse. I was curious what sort of methods you use to find a new voice when you take on a new role.
Okay, first of all, I just love everything about you right now. That you're like, I'm Charles from Inspire the Muse. Let me think of something smart. I use people. I still do that thing where I will mouth like people don't like watching television with me because I will start whispering. If somebody comes on with an interesting accent or just has a cool thing, they'll say something and then I'll just be repeating it after that. And everyone's like, could you stop? That's really annoying. Sorry, I'll stop. Wait, no, go. Yeah. I said shut. And they're like, okay, I'm going in the other room. So I mimic. I have sort of married people. I was a character named Gates in Titanfall 2, and she's British. My mom's British. So basically, Gates is like a super badass version of my mom. I really just, when I did on-camera acting, which I didn't do a lot of, it was all about the shoes. I would start from the shoes up, like what does this person wear on their feet? Because I figured that was like grounding, and a lot of the time for me, it's does this person have an accent or a tic? So there's something about taking either someone I know. Sometimes I'll think about like what kind of a person would they cast in the on camera version of this? And do I know somebody like that? And can I kind of hook into something from someone I know and kind of keep going back to that? I'm not really great at like I'm just gonna make somebody up in my head. It's usually someone I want to be or someone from my life, that is actually one of my friends or a teacher I had, and then it goes off the rails from there.
We have time for one more question.
Hi.
Dan from Textbook Example.
Yes. And you guys all have your shirts on today, thank God. We talked about this yesterday. There was one person wearing a Textbook Example shirt. I was like, real estate people, know your brand. Yes.
You said that you were running a gym and training people. How did you get into that?
Okay, we're gonna get super personal. So I made bad choices when I was a younger woman, and I dated a guy who was a total asshole, and he was cheating on me, and I was very unglued about that. I was at that age where that actually like matters, and you're not just like, get out of here. You're like, no, we're gonna fight about this and not go to work, and now I'd be like, dude, I gotta go. I gotta make the dollars, get out of here. Beat it. But I was young, and I was so unhappy that I couldn't sleep. It was one of those things that the only thing that gave me any like peace of mind was to go, and I was like, I need to work out. I need to physically get this anger out. And I read an article about this girl who was training at a gym called Gleason's in Brooklyn. And and I remember looking at her, she's this little teeny like blonde girl, and I was like, she's boxing? I'm like, I could totally kick that girl's ass. And so I went and found a gym actually a boxing gym in Venice. And I kind of bopped in there and was like, hi, I want a box. And they were like, sure you do. And I was like, just, like it was all guys. It was a long time ago. It was before there was a lot of women doing this. And they sort of laughed and they stuck some gloves on me. And I was not a physical kid. I skateboarded. I was a punk rocker. I went to shows, and that was basically what I did in high school. But I think I just had so much rage in me that they were kind of like, oh, okay, all right, yeah, we'll train you. And so I trained 3 hours a day in boxing and kickboxing, and did some fights, and it was super fun. I loved all of it. I loved the technique of it and the strategy and the training, and so then when it started to become sort of where people had like boxing fitness classes and stuff, I started taking a couple classes just to keep in shape in between regular training, and they were like, did you want to teach this? And I ended up teaching a class in San Francisco that had about 50 people in the class, and most of them were guys, because I was like, let's do this. You want to do some controlled sparring? Let's do this. And people would come in and be like, who's teaching? And I'm like, I am. And they're like, and I'm like, oh, dude, you're going to so pay for that stinky look. And so it was great. I got paid to torture people. It was really fun.
Well, thank you so much. I'm sorry. That's all the time we have. I'm sorry. And thank you so much.